Okay, if I can get your attention, I'd like to call the April 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting to order. If you're able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Baisden?
Here.
Councilmember Sonart?
Here.
Vice Mayor Naxted?
Here.
Councilmember Daniel?
Here.
Mayor Gabriel?
Here.
Councilmember Askin?
Here.
Councilmember Dothit?
Here.
Student Representative Tanner?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Council, before we get to the agenda and consent agenda approval, I'd like to bring to your attention the lay-down materials. We have item E3, add item, ordinance 3406-2024, an amendment memo, and add item to H5, action approval, community purpose exemption to donate sand, public comments. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Baisden.
I move to amend the agenda to add items E3 and item H5 and ask for unanimous.
I'll second.
And the consent agenda as well.
And the consent agenda as well, yes.
Are there any additional revisions to the agenda and consent agenda from the council? Seeing none, would the clerk please read the consent agenda items into the record?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of March 20th, 2024. New business, action approval, bills to be ratified, brought to you by the administration. New business, action approval, consent to assignment and assumption of lease agreement of Lot 1, Block 5, General Aviation Apron 1 amended, brought to you by the administration. Introduction of ordinance number 3407-2024, accepting and appropriating a volunteer fire assistance grant from the United States Department of Agriculture Forest Service passed through the State of Alaska Division of Forestry for the purchase of firefighting equipment, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing scheduled for April 17th, 2024, and ordinance number 3408-2024, accepting and appropriating a State of Alaska Code Blue fiscal year 2025 grant passed through the Southern Region EMS Council, Inc. to purchase 2 video laryngoscopes, brought to you by the administration. A public hearing on April 17th, 2024, and that is your consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments on any of the consent agenda items that just was read into the record? Anybody? Okay, unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, the agenda and consent agenda are approved. If there's no objections, I'd like to present the proclamation declaring April 2024 as the Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we have Ashley here from Lee Shore Center, and I'd be happy to give this presentation. Would you like us to stand? Yes. Okay. Whereas sexual assault is an intolerable, violent crime with public health implications for every person in the Central Kenai Peninsula, and no one person, organization, agency, or community can eliminate sexual assault alone. And whereas sexual violence prevention can be better addressed through education, counseling, support of victims and survivors, and increased support for service agencies in collaboration with the Lee Shore Center. And whereas the Lee Shore Center, its staff and volunteers work year-round to address sexual assault by providing 24-hour crisis services, offering support to those impacted by sexual assault, and providing prevention, education, and survivor empowerment information to schools, churches, and civic organizations, as well as medical, mental health, law enforcement, education, and criminal justice personnel. And whereas the Lee Shore Center continues to develop and improve the quality of service for those most profoundly and directly impacted by sexual violence. Now, therefore, I, Henry Naxted, Vice Mayor of the City of Kenai, Alaska, proclaim April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Kenai and urge all citizens to support and assist the Lee Shore Center as it continues its effort to bring real hope for freeing the Central Kenai Peninsula from the tragedy of sexual violence and exploitation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you so much for reaffirming the city's support for this important information.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming. Say hi to Quincy. Okay, that brings us to scheduled administrative reports. And we have one. We have classification and compensation report. And tonight we have Ms. Mays and our Human Resource Director, Stephanie Randall, to do that report. So you have the floor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Melena Halverson Mays, and I'm a senior consultant with McGrath Human Resources Group. While we get the presentation started, just a little bit about our firm here. We are a, whoops, there we go. Try again. There we go. All right. We are a public sector consulting firm. We are a nationwide company, although we are located out of a small community in Tennessee, but I currently reside in the state of Wisconsin. I have been working with McGrath for the past 10 years, working on compensation and benefits all across the United States, and our the individuals that we serve are always going to be local communities, whether that's townships, cities, or counties. And so I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this evening in front of you. You are in a beautiful part of the United States, and it's always a pleasure to visit Alaska. I also want to extend a special thank you to your Human Resources Director and your city administration. This project has taken us several months to get through. We appreciate everyone's patience. I'm very excited for the outcomes that we have provided to the city, and more information on that is going to be rolled out here through your budgeting process. So we have broken this project down into a couple of different categories. I am specifically going to be talking about your classification and your compensation part of the project, and then Stephanie is going to talk more about the benefits and the implementation. When we started working on this project, we really were focused on just the classifications, or how you have your positions structured, and at the same time, your city administration was working on collecting market data so that they could understand how your organization was compensating against that market. But what we quickly realized along the way was that there's really a close tie and a relationship between classifications and compensation. And so what we had determined to do was for McGrath to help the city administration team kind of collectively come together with both of those pieces of data to come up with our recommendations. So in order for me to really kind of give you an understanding of where things are at for Kenai, let me just kind of take it up at a more of a national level, because there are a lot of organizations all across the country at the public level that are absolutely struggling with recruitment and retention, and there's been a very significant shift in the workforce over the last few years, and most people would say that it started with COVID, but the reality is that it actually started a little bit before that. And what we have been finding with this shift in the workforce, and I'll talk about the points here in a little bit. That shift has really resulted in some real pressures that are being put on organizations, because sometimes you don't have necessarily the people in the positions to be able to provide the operations and the services, and that impacts you then, because you have expectations of your constituents in those programs and services. And you might have the opportunity, or you might have wages in order to be able to hire individuals, but can you retain them long term? And so that was one of those areas that we took a look at for you. If you struggle with recruitment and retention, one of those struggles will result in staff burnout and overtime and turnover costs. And those turnover costs are real to an organization. I always come into an organization and I talk about turnover is a real, it can be a real financial problem, because you're spending out the dollars, maybe not necessarily in wages line items, but you're spending them in other particular line items, and you want to try to stop that, because that is dollars that you could be reallocating to other parts of your organization. There's a lot of reasons why, like I said, it started before COVID, that we started to see a change in the workforce, but there's been a couple of real key parts. I'm not going to read all of this to you here this evening, but what we're specifically seeing across the United States is that the workforce in the public sector is aging. We have about 30% of public sector employees that are ready and age eligible to retire, and one of the challenges that you have is backfilling those positions and backfilling them with individuals who have a specific skill set, or maybe the abilities to learn that skill set. There's also a little bit of a change in philosophy with the workforce, because when I started working in public sector, and I spent about 15 years in the public sector before I started working with McGrath. What we were looking at was, all right, how do I get into my organization, and am I going to stay there long term, so that my 30-year plan, I can see it, I have that outlook. Today's workforce is not doing that, and what you're finding is that people are in those positions less and less time, and when those positions turn over, you're retraining, you have payouts, you have overtime, and that is where some of that expense is coming into play. And so a lot of organizations are really struggling with, how do we try to keep our people here? It's a retention concern, and there's a lot of other variables. I'm not going to read them off here for you, but you certainly please go back to the PowerPoint and look at some of those other areas as you can. So now let's do a little bit, let's talk specifically about your organization and what I just talked about, and what I look at the demographics of your employees, what exactly do I see? And so what you see here on the screen here is I've age banded, and I've put into categories all of your employees. And what this is telling me is it's really kind of interesting. What you'll see on the bottom, and I'm sorry that my clicker won't reflect on the screen here, but all of your employees have been age banded. And on the far right hand box is the average years of service that those employees are providing to the city. And what you're going to see here is that for those individuals who are over the age of 40 or 40 and over, they're hovering somewhere between the average of 9 to 10 years. And that number is going to be really important here when I get to another slide. Just kind of keep that in mind. On average, the city, your tenure from your personnel is 6.94 years, and the national average is 6.9 years, which means that you are right on average, and we're seeing that number decrease over time. We really hope that we start to see those numbers climb up again, but right now, you are absolutely average to the market. But what the other things that's really important of these charts to at least identify for you is, with the age of your workforce that you have right now, 33% of your workforce is age 50 and over. And that means over the course of the next decade, the city really needs to be preparing for retirement, because those individuals, they've worked really hard to be able to retire when they want to do it. And you're going to be working on backfilling those positions, upwards of a third of those positions, just by nature of retirement. That doesn't include people who decide to separate for other reasons. The other element that's really important of these statistics here is that 41% of your workforce is under the age of 40. And this is what we consider your very mobile workforce. Not to say that those who are over 40 aren't mobile. We certainly are. But there's a little bit more movement that's going on with those that are under 40. Those are the individuals that, if the community next door is paying a little bit more money, they're not afraid to move. They're not afraid to go work elsewhere. And so for when I look at that, then I say the city needs to be concerned about not only your recruitment in the future, but also your retention of your personnel. The other thing that is of interest, I'm going to go back to the far right hand column or box here, is when you're talking about your workforce and you have an opportunity to grow and develop your people, then those they've got that skill set, and if they can go elsewhere with that, they're the ones that are being poached. And those are the ones that you also want to make sure that you're keeping, because you've put all of those years of training and evolving and professional growth and development, you've put those resources into those individuals, and you want to keep them. So when we approach this particular project in terms of the compensation, we really wanted to approach this with your retention opportunities for the city. Really quickly then, and this is information that came from your Human Resources Department, and I apologize that you can't see the orange screen, but this is your turnover rate, and from 2023, and there we go, thank you. And it tells me that you have a 20% turnover rate. That means 1 in 5 of your employees left last year. And we like to see, in the HR world, we like to see about a 10% turnover. Yours is a little bit higher than that. And so this would tell me that you not only have people that are leaving for retirement, but you've got people who are leaving just out of a resignations. And so this is certainly an opportunity for the city to try to work on and focus on retaining your personnel so that you don't have those additional expenses coming out of the city. Okay, so let's talk about your project. There were 2 particular areas that I'm going to speak on, and the first one is your classifications, which is your job titles and how those particular positions are put on your salary schedule. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but please know that I am going to be talking with your employees tomorrow, and I like to share with them the same presentation that I'm sharing with you. And this is probably going to be a little bit more information for your employees. But what we do when we look at classifications is we ask for all of your positions to complete what's called a position questionnaire so that we can run what's called a position analysis. That position analysis then will help us develop or identify really what the hierarchy of the organization is and some of the differences between your positions. When we did that analysis, I will say that your administration, we had many meetings where I would call it a very rigorous review of all of your positions to make sure that we felt that they were properly classified, if they were in specific levels, if there were any changes that needed to occur, and there will be some recommended changes. By and large, for the most part, your classification structure is intact and it's good. There were just some very modest title changes and classification changes. One of the things that I will say that the city has been spending a lot of focus on over the course of history with your classification process is your position analysis. And position analysis is one element when we are looking to update your structure. We look at not only the position analysis, but we also want to make sure that we're paying attention to what the market is saying and any type of compression that you might have between positions. So whereas the city has historically put great weight on the position analysis, and I will say that that is okay to do, we don't want the city to not consider what is happening in the market or with your compression factors. We want for you to look at this in totality. And sometimes that can be a little bit difficult because employees will look at their position and they'll see that it's at a certain pay grade and they'll say, I have nothing to do with that position. Why am I being paid the same as that other position? Well, that position analysis will allow us then to evaluate positions. And when we do that, we evaluate positions. I'm going to just kind of fast forward here into job families. And so all of your positions have very different focal points. And so sometimes that means that analysis is going to be heavier weighted in certain areas than others based upon the type of job family that they have. So one of the changes that we're making is going to be a little bit more behind the scenes for your administration when your HR department is going to learn how to do the point factoring, the position analysis process. process. And because we have all of your positions that are recategorized by job family, it's going to make a little bit more sense behind the scenes when you're placing your positions in the future. The last thing I want to talk about on classifications, and then we're going to roll right into the compensation, is minimum qualifications, because this actually was a conversation that I had with administration periodically throughout this project, because certainly we are seeing a little bit of a change that's happening with your labor market, and there are times when individuals may not have all of the qualifications. That's becoming pretty standard right now, and what we always talk with our clients about is there are going to be times when you're going to be hiring for the fit, for the heart, for the personality of what you need in that position, and then you're going to give them a period of time to learn perhaps some of those skills, because they may not have everything that you're looking for, and to give them time to grow and develop that. We talked about that at length, and so if there is going to be any deviation of your minimum qualifications in the future, we have, we will, in our process, human resources will be able to accommodate that, so that we're not necessarily diminishing the value of the position for that. All right, moving on to compensation. That's the second part of this, where we took a look at your market and compared how you are paying against your comparators. And in order to kind of set that tone of compensation, what I like to just talk about very quickly is compensation philosophy. And this is really a policy item for the organization on how you want to pay your employees going forward. Once you establish that philosophy, then it's a lot easier for your administration to come forward with recommendations, because those recommendations are going to be to help support this compensation philosophy. Organizations have three real options. You can be under the market, where you will always be kind of chasing the other communities next door. Usually those are organizations that they are spending money. They're just spending money in other areas like overtime and retraining and so on and so forth. You can meet your local market, where we know you're going to pay about what everybody else is. You know that there's going to be organizations that pay more than you and some that pay less than you, or that you can be leading the market. And there is certainly that's a very specific area to be in the market, to be at the top, and to hope that others will simply just follow you. So keep that in mind when we're going through, or when I'm showing you what our recommendations are. I'm going to just skip ahead here. This is a summary, just a visual of where your compensation is against your current market. And your human resources department spent a lot of time collecting market data, analyzing, making sure that they were properly aligning positions so that we are looking at like to like. And this is what your wages look like against that market. How you read this is we were taking specific points in time for your employees, what their wages are when you're comparing as a new hire or at your initial pay, and then at 5, 10, 15-year increments, and then at the maximum. And how is Kenai doing at that in those particular areas? What we find here is when we were comparing you against about the 75th percentile, maybe a little bit higher, which means that in terms of your wages at the minimum, the city is at you are at a high point in comparisons to other communities that we used. And that is actually a very good recruitment tool. It's been very good for you, and you will see that at initial pay and at 5-year pay, you're very high in the market. What happens though is at 10 years, and that's that middle number at 58%, you start to wane. You start to lose ground in the market. And at 15 years and at maximum, when we compare where your rates are against the market, you can see that absolutely just falls off. And that's just falling off around the same time. If you go back to what those the age banding, and that the average of those employees, they're starting to fall at about 9 or 10 years. So this is not as surprising to see, in that what we have found is that Kenai is not competitive in wages after about the 10th year. And that's why we spent significant time not necessarily changing your schedule or the structure of your schedule. It was more expanding that beyond so that we can help support you and try to keep your employees and retain them longer. So just a couple of highlights on your current structure, and then we'll talk about the recommendations, and then I'll turn it over to Stephanie. You currently have your classified service, and then you have your department heads. And the big takeaway for this is that on your classified services, which is where most of your employees are, they have a spread. We call that a spread from the minimum to the maximum of about 20%. That's very, very narrow, okay? Takes your employees 10 and a half years to get from the minimum to the maximum. Again, we're hitting that 10-year mark. And your department heads, they have about a 32% spread. And we now know just from looking at that other graph that I showed you, 10 years or 10 and a half years to the maximum is no longer going to be sufficient for the city in order to be able to retain your personnel. So we spent great time looking at, what do we do with your structure without starting all over? And really that was some of the parameters of let's continue with the model that we have, because there's really nothing wrong with your model. We just needed to push it out a little bit. So what we have done is we have expanded your model so that if your employee starts at the initial pay, then they would be maxing out at 15 years. And we've broadened that spread from 20% out to 34%. So if you see all of those maximums, now all of the employee maximums have been pushed out significantly, and that will allow them to continue to progress through their salary ranges for a few more years, and then we'll be able to keep you more market competitive. My job as your consultant was to make sure that when I'm looking at all of those benchmarks, that salary range is going to keep you competitive long term. We also did a little bit of a change in terms of you are getting increases every other year at certain parts of the process, and I've pushed out that increase a little bit more. Your department heads, they've gone from a 34% spread up to a 40% spread. So a little bit of just a de minimis increase, but I think is going to be very helpful for you for your recruitment and your retention purposes. This is just a summary of pay grade changes. And so at the end of the day, there are some positions where we have identified that either through the classification process or by nature of market changes that we need to change pay grades. Not all of the positions are going up. We do have a handful of them in that list that are going down by a pay grade, but one of the very consistent recommendations that you will see is that we're starting you out at grade 6, because there's been a significant shift in the market on those lower pay rates, those more entry-level pay rates. So those positions are going to be starting out at 6 now. And then we have just a smattering, a few up, a few down, but the majority of your positions are going to be left alone, and that they simply are going to get a new maximum pushed out. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, and I would imagine we'll have questions at the end.
Thank you. It's good to see everyone again. For those who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Randall, and I'm the Human Resources Director at the city. I have been here for just over a year. I've been working with Christine Cunningham, the Assistant to City Manager and Special Projects Coordinator, gathering data on all these things listed here. So we began looking at health plan design and costs. We examined the range of supplemental insurances offered by other organizations. We compared retirement and supplemental retirement, and we looked at personnel policies related to leave and paid time off accrual. We also explored fringe benefits and other pay types offered by organizations. Our goal, kind of along with what Milena has said, was to make sure the city's entire compensation package remains competitive with other public employers. So we believe it's crucial that we continue to evaluate and improve our benefits to attract and retain top talent while managing our budget effectively. As we shared our findings with the City of Kenai's personnel working group, they helped to come up with the following recommendations. In our analysis of health insurance, we found diverse cost-sharing strategies and various complexities in the plan frameworks among other organizations. We are proposing to maintain our current employer-employee cost share ratio of 87% employer, 13% employee cost for the upcoming fiscal year. This adjustment will preserve our competitiveness in recruitment and retention efforts while providing essential coverage for our employees. We've recently partnered with a new health insurance broker and will continue to look for ways to enhance the health insurance plan options offered by the city in the next fiscal year. Our city stands out in its commitment to employee well-being by offering employer-paid coverage for life insurance at 1.5 times an employee's annual salary up to $100,000. We propose maintaining this level of coverage to help provide peace of mind and financial security for our employees. Ensuring financial security in retirement is important to us as well. At the beginning of the fiscal year 2023, an amendment was made to increase employer contributions to supplemental retirement plans. We believe our retirement offerings remain competitive with other employers. And our analysis showed that our annual leave accrual and leave policies are competitive. To streamline processes and follow IRS guidelines, we are proposing implementing a pre-election system for personal leave cash out, which means employees would decide in December how many hours they plan to cash out the following year. Our city's fringe benefits, including allowances, were found to be similar to those offered by comparable employers. Next, we are proposing transitioning certification pay to a calculated percentage of Step A of the pay range for both police officers and firefighters. This adjustment will ensure fair compensation reflective of skill and experience and will allow us to maintain competitiveness while setting certification pay up to adjust for inflation. We found the current practice of calculating acting pay resulted in various pay increases for employees. Some were only seeing 2% increase, while others received a much higher amount. So to further promote fairness, we recommend calculating acting pay as 10% of an employer's current range and step. And to align with our new pay schedule, longevity bonuses will need to be adjusted. Employees who are eligible to receive a pay increase as defined by our code will receive longevity bonuses after they are at Step EE for 2 years. This adjustment will help to maintain the integrity of our compensation structure. We are recommending extending step adjustments to part-time employees at the same intervals as full-time employees. This would help us to promote a culture of fairness and inclusivity to all employees. And then lastly, we propose updating our per diem travel reimbursement rate to $59 per day, aligning it with the standard federal rate and adjusting for inflation. This adjustment reflects the current economic realities and ensures fair compensation for travel expenses. Our proposed changes and recommendations are not just about numbers. They reflect our commitment to our employees' well-being, fairness, and the overall success of our city. As we move forward, it's important to highlight some key points regarding the implementation of these changes. First and foremost, I want to emphasize there will be no decrease in pay for our reclassified employees. That was something that was really important to our administration. The proposed implementation would transfer all of our employees to the new pay schedule at the step closest to their current hourly rate without taking a decrease. For some, this may mean the step they are on will change, but no one will see a decrease in their hourly pay as a result. With the introduction of the new pay schedule, all new employees will be subject to a probationary period of 12 months. This fits with our proposed pay schedule and will provide additional time for supervisors to complete initial evaluations. Additionally, we recognize the need for legislative updates to the City of Kenai Municipal Code to reflect these changes accurately. Legislation will soon be introduced to implement the proposed adjustments. We want to keep in mind the bigger picture, and that is creating a workplace where employees feel valued, supported, and empowered to succeed. By investing in our workforce today, we're laying the foundation for a brighter and more prosperous future for our city. Thank you. And actually, we have one slide left, and that is if there are questions, I think Melena and I will answer if anyone has.
Okay, council, do you have any questions? Councilmember Baisden?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Good presentation. So this is going to be presented to the employees tomorrow, is that what I'm hearing?
That is correct.
Besides the questionnaire, how much input have they had?
Well, our personnel working group was received input from the personnel working group. The supervisors that were on that, in that group were going to their employees and getting feedback. So there was feedback that way and then through the questionnaires. Mhm.
Thanks.
Councilmember Dothett?
And this comes down to, I just noticed that we were maxing out at 15 years now instead of 10. Why not go to 20 when, you know, we're at least a 20-year plus retirement for most of these employees? What is the huge, is there I'm assuming it's a large paying difference, but if we're wanting to keep somebody down until retirement age, wouldn't it make more logical sense to go to a 20-year max out instead of just a 15?
No, that's a very good question. When we look at the market data, not everybody, everyone has varied ranges. And so we look at then really what is there a significant difference between 15 and 20? And sometimes they might go out to you know, even further beyond that. And, you know, what I identified was that if we go out to 20, we might go a little bit beyond what you would need to do in the market. And, you know, let's just assess that in the future if you need to do that. I just, you know, I want to be cognizant of and be responsible for the tax dollars that you're using. And let's push this out a few years. Let's see if that's going to have a positive result, because I don't want to go too high either.
Okay, so in a few years, if we were to do another analysis and everybody's quitting at 15 years, then we'd be looking at saying, well,
Well-
maybe we should go to 20. Is that, I mean, that's what we're seeing. Don't mean to be.
We don't know
that-
the answer
guy.
to that, right? I mean, I don't have a crystal ball to know what is going to be happening in the market. You know, there's just so many variables. So I would rather incrementally say, okay, do we have to push this out a little bit further? I think it's easier to push it out if we need to push it out than it is to say we went too far and then try to pull it back.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Baisden?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So maybe a question for administration or for the finance director. With the recommendations that have been brought forth here, and we're going to see legislation, have we ballparked what this would look like on an annual basis?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Baisden, through the Vice Mayor. That is the process we're working on right now, is integrating these recommendations into our budget to see what those actual costs are. So, no, I don't have actual numbers for you right now. That's what, with the completion of this project, that's what we're trying to integrate into the budget right now. So.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dothett?
I just have one more. I know it's the 12-month probation period. Is that currently what we're at now, or is that extending the probationary period longer now? I guess it would be for staff.
So currently, our employees that have a 6-month probation, except for our dispatchers and police officers and firefighters have a 12-month probation. So it would just be equal probation for all employees.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mayor Gabriel, do you have anything? Make sure you can hear us.
It was a very interesting presentation. I appreciate the work that was put in that. The question I had, which aligned with Councilmember Baisden's, was regarding a fiscal note, but it sounds like we'll have something forthcoming around budget time. So thank you for that.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very informative, and some of it was kind of surprising. But that's how that works, right? Thank you so much. Okay, that brings us down to item C, scheduled public comments. We have one. We have Dr. Keith Hamilton here tonight. He's the president of the Alaska Christian College. Dr. Hamilton. Keith, could you turn on your mic?
That says it's,
There you go.
red is on?
Red is on. Red is
Okay.
good.
Sorry about that, Mayor Gabriel. Did you hear everything I said? He did. All right.
Yes, I did, Dr. Hamilton.
Okay, even without the microphone. My wife says I have a big mouth, so we're good. Yeah, we're 23 years in now since we began Alaska Christian College, and our mission has been to empower Alaska Natives through biblically based higher education and Christian formation to pursue excellence in character, learning, and service as followers of Christ. That's been our mission statement for most of our years, and the Alaska Natives is the underlying part, because if you know and remember, a lot of what we do is related to recruiting students from rural bush Alaska. A little bit of history about us. We purchased the Ballard property back in 2001 from Central Peninsula Counseling Services. We just had 10.5 acres there. We had one building. There's an indoor swimming pool inside of it over there on East Poppy Lane near the other college you might have heard about. And we opened our doors to our first class on September 16th, 2001, just 5 days after 9/11. Not a great day to start a new college, by the way. But we had 22 students that first year from 4 different states, 7 different ethnic groups, but 80% of them were Alaska Native background, and then 16 of us were self-supporting faculty and staff, raising our own funds to be there to serve. We were just a one-year, non-accredited Bible college for these Alaska Native young people. But now we've grown a little bit since then. In fact, we're now at 29.5 acres, 27 different building projects since that first one, built mainly by volunteer labor every summer. And the big thing for us a year and a half ago is we're debt-free. We don't owe anybody anything for all these buildings and the acres. You've been on our campus recently. You'll see all the updates and changes thanks to our volunteers. We've added 2 36-bed dorms, 3 cabins, 4 apartment buildings, New Hope Counseling Center, Peninsula Conference Center, I'll speak about in a few minutes, a little chapel, a 6-classroom building now, state-of-the-art, a shop, 8-car garage, a yurt, of course, because we're Alaskans, an athletic center, and a wellness center well underway now. So yeah, state-of-the-art classroom. We have a science laboratory, a computer lab, and other classrooms, behavioral health classroom. And then we have the conference center, 72 beds now completed between the 2 different sides of that building. And we want to fill every bed with young Native people. But here's a picture that I love. These are the dots that show the different villages of the about 254 villages and cities in the state of Alaska. About 104 have been represented by students who have come to ACC. And you'll see on the left, they're mainly from those villages that we know are in far western Alaska. Also today, we have actually 52 full-time, part-time, volunteer, interns, and adjunct faculty serving at ACC. We've gone from just $500,000 to $3.3 million investing back into our community. 850 students have attended since we began in 2001, again from those 102 villages across Alaska. But big deal for us. In 2012, we earned accredited status from the Association for Biblical Higher Education. We were also authorized by the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education, our own state authorizing agency, and then the big deal, the U.S. Department of Education, which means we're legit. We're the real thing, okay? Not a fly-by-night a college that's for profit. Our vision also was picked up a few years after we began. What do we want to be? We want to know that students that graduate from high school, that we are the premier college or their first college of choice for these students when they graduate and follow in Christ within the church and larger society. And we had 30 students from the Bering Street School District today in our campus, and we're telling them, hey, after high school, we hope you be your first choice. Here's what we offer. We have 4 associate degrees, again, those 2 to 3 year degrees: behavioral health, Christian ministry, general studies, and paraprofessional education. We're soon to offer vocational tech classes starting this fall, which is a change for us after 23 years. And I will tell you, over half of our students are in the general studies degree program. We offer life-changing education to prepare Alaska Native students towards a 4-year college degree. About half of our graduates go on to a 4-year degree, enter the workforce, or possibly return to rural Alaska. And I want to tell you that it's always our hope that our students get back to rural Alaska, back to home, but my goodness, a lot of them are staying right here in Kenai. They're staying right here in Soldotna, and I'll tell you why.
They have loved their experience in our cities. They love Walmart, and they love the chance to walk down the street and not get accosted like they do in other cities of our state. They feel safe here. And your police forces and the state troopers, they take care of our students, knowing they come from rural communities, so thank you. We do offer residential community. We don't have anything that's online. And pre-COVID, we had 104 students. That's been our highest enrollment in our history. But we're very personalized, very intentional, very intensive when it comes to academic support. Our students are very academically underprepared when they come to us from rural Alaska, especially since COVID hit. We have seen a student that's much more ill-prepared because they were in their villages for a couple of years almost, and schools weren't open like a lot of other places, but especially the villages, it was super hard. What we are not a four-year college. We are an AA degree granting institution, just like a community college. We are not online. We're not a place where anybody can teach here. Every class is taught by master's and doctoral degree professors. We're not a college just only for Alaska Natives, although 90% of our students are. We invite everybody who wishes to join us in this unique college experience. And we are not a cult at the end of Royal Place off of East Poppy Lane. Just wanted you to know, in case you were wondering. One of our DBAs is the Peninsula Conference Center at Alaska Christian College, and this is our capacity to be able to rent out our facilities to the broader community. We offer housing and conferences May to September. We have a lot of it this summer. We're almost booked already. Full-service cabins, dormitories, apartment-style housing, very nice apartment housings for folks of all different dollars that they can afford. And we offer that 200-seat conference room, 150-seat dining in that big building that's called our central dining hall today. And we do catering and full service and that kind of things when they come around. Now, if you take Kenai Peninsula College and their 100 and so beds, they have fewer now because they're using it for classroom, but you take their beds and our beds, and you ever want to have a large conference on the Central Kenai, between the two of us, we're somewhere around 200 to 225 beds between the two of us. And we have the dining capacity. And we're right next door to each other. We have classroom capacities in both schools. We really do actually have a conference center between the two of us to be used here on the Kenai. Another one of our, say, a sister organization is New Hope Counseling Center. This is on the campus of Alaska Christian College. It's free to our students. We do charge our community clients. About 3,300 client hours came through last year. So it's a huge organization in our community, meeting a lot of needs, and it's the only faith-based on the Kenai Peninsula. We offer all kinds of help with insurances, veterans insurance, private insurance, employee assistance programs. Your employees here, my understanding, are able to access support from New Hope Counseling Center. And the best part about New Hope Counseling Center is my wife is the executive director. She gets to work on campus near me. Just an ACC Good Neighbor commitment. I want to let you know that our doors are open for the community. There are no walls, there are no guards. We hope that you'll use our community. In fact, City Council, how many of you guys have ever driven onto the campus of Alaska Christian College? Yeah, there you go, all the hands are up. We want to serve the greater Soldotna Kenai community by offering our facilities, our staff, and our students to assist in bringing a better place to all who live here. Yeah, we have teachers who teach at KPC, and we also have a couple that teach over with us. Our students are in the community. They've got to do 10 hours of community service each semester as a part of their program. They're in Kenai right here. You'll see them over at Salvation Army perhaps, working over there. You'll see them over at the food bank. A lot of different places in our community to serve. We ran a campaign, almost done here, a couple years ago. We raised $5 million, most of it for the new gym, $3 million of that. And if you look at this big circle here, this is where the gym is being built today. And it really has given us kind of two parts to our campus, kind of our educational housing on the left, and on the right is a little bit of housing, but our gymnasium and wellness center, and also a new chapel that's coming on board. And if you come down Poppy Ridge Lane past Kenai Peninsula College, instead of turning left onto East Poppy, you come in straight up and you turn left into our gym. So the community will all come in from the community college side. Our students will come in from the campus side, and it'll be a walkway to get between those two. So this was the fall of 2022, again, built by volunteers. We had one gentleman who is an ace in building steel buildings, who's one of our volunteers. He got it up and rolling, but it's an amazing facility. That snowpack happened 3 days after we got the roof on, that first big snow we got last fall. That nailed us, and we are going to be opening it in June of 2024, it looks like. We're available for rental for workout and cardio use. We're available for basketball leagues, for volleyball leagues. We already have a team that wants to rent from us from volleyball. We have 6 pickleball courts, and larger community events. And the biggest thing that Marion loves is we have a running and walking track that'll be available. It's two lanes going all the way around. I don't know how many laps you have to make to get to a mile, but we'll figure it out. And instead of doing the Home Depot run like Marion does now, you can do the ACC run, okay? So this is what it looks like. It's a mangled mess of lines, but volleyball, pickleball, and basketball with 6 different hoops. It's very large. It's larger than the high school gyms in our area. And then coming on board is also a multi-purpose room / chapel that'll be built into the front of the gymnasium. That is going to be underway here in the next couple of months. And it can house, or it can sit up to, let me see, 190 guests in round tables. It's a very large indoor facility for the community to rent. So we only have a cement floor. The real floor is going in this month, but we had our first shot. I know my time's up, but Amy Simon from Scammon Bay, she won the lottery. She got the first shot in the new gym and missed it. But it's really about our students. Here's one of our graduating classes, 10 of our students a few years ago. Again, we're graduating 10 again this year. And that's my presentation, I believe. I'll take any questions that you might have about your college.
Councilmember Baisden.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton, for coming in. I appreciate everything you do over there.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little snapshot on the VOCAD, what you think is going to take place there? That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. We're trying to not compete with anybody who's already doing things in our community. But we had a little grant that helped us to do some research. We're thinking culinary arts is one of the options. Also, large machinery, learning to drive and operate. We have a lot of large machinery on our property from building these buildings. And then the third that we're looking at right now to pilot this fall is in small engine repair. In the village, you have your snow goes, your snow machines, you know, you have boat motors, and you have four-wheelers, I mean. And we're just thinking what would help in the village, and each one of those are part of our CTE options right now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions? Dr. Hamilton, you're quite the asset to our community, considering everything you built there over the last, 23
Yes,
years?
sir.
I met you there in a very questionable house with an empty swimming pool that
Yes,
you had
sir.
to get rid of. And you've just done so much there. It's truly is amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And just on your calendar, September 27th, you'll be getting an invitation to our grand opening of our new athletic center and everything that we're doing over there. It'll be a big day for us. So get you hopefully over there to check it out. Okay?
Yeah, we might have Mayor Gabriel. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, just first of all, I just want to thank Dr. Hamilton for showing up and doing the presentation. I know last year when he did his, we were looking at the gymnasium, so it's nice to see kind of where that's at, because there was quite a ways to go on that. But I do have a question. Do you have any idea how many students actually go on, maybe do a 4-year degree after they attend ACC? Just out of curiosity. You guys track
Be sure to
those
turn on
numbers?
your,
Yeah, so every year we see at least half of our graduates attend a 4-year university. Most of them are in state. A few have left the state to go outside, but because of agreements with the university system, our students now can matriculate right over to the university. So we're seeing more pickup here in the local schools.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, and that's a win.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. We now have unscheduled public comments. Are there any members from the public who would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Marion Nelson.
You all have a copy of this flyer for the student art show that's at the Tina Art Center right now. And probably the biggest item on this is that it is the 33rd annual Kenai Peninsula Borough Juried Student Art Show. Juried because the kids come from middle school and high school in the borough, from the schools that have art teachers, and that's not all of them, as you are painfully aware, or I'm painfully aware. Wish it were all of them, but it isn't. So the ones that can participate, and their teachers just do. I'm going to start crying here. Oh God. Ooh. Sorry, people. I'm just a crier. I can't help it. I'm not falling apart. It's just the way I'm built. Anyway, See, they're laughing. They're used to this. They do a great job of getting all the artwork from their kids. First of all, gathering, making decisions as to which of the students in their classroom are going to participate, are going to provide the artwork that they bring to Kenai for this particular show. And then they are also personally responsible to bring it here, and depending on how they cooperate, and bring it here and bring it back to their schools. I can't give them enough credit. They really do a lot. And our local teachers right here in this area, they supply the majority of the food for the reception that's taking place this Friday, and it's a lot, you know, because you've got whole families there and brothers and sisters that are very excited about their brothers and sisters getting awards, or their work is on the wall, and it's just a really big deal for those families. Sorry, everybody. So that's what's going on, and I hope that some of you can make it over there. A really good thing, too, is that the awards, and there are awards, for the middle school at 5:30 and the high school at 6, because when we used to do this, the awards kind of all at once, it is just too much, because there's so many people in that building. It is kind of packed from the front to the back of the building. It's a big crowd. And separating those awards helps us manage that a lot better. That's the biggie for this month, really. And then there's other workshops and so forth. It's also been, the back room has been repainted, the floor has been repainted, and various other nuts and bolts, things like that. Have any questions from anybody? Nope. Okay. Easy.
Marion,
Henry?
happy birthday.
That's coming up. The party's been, but I'm aging still.
Gotcha. Well, we've had ready for a, let's plan on a 10-minute break, and we can resume about 7:05. Okay? Okay, back on the record. That gets us down to public hearings. The first public hearing before us tonight is ordinance 3404, 2024, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the airport fund to provide supplemental funding for 100 low-lead float plane basin fuel, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Baisden.
Move to enact ordinance 3404, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the general public that would like to speak on, to ordinance 3404, 2024? Anybody online? Seeing no one else, let's bring it back to council for discussion. Mayor, do you have anything? Is he still on? He's still there. Okay.
Yeah, no comment, no
Okay.
questions.
Okay, so no discussion, so clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden,
Yes.
Student Representative Tanner.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3404, 2024 is enacted.
Okay, very good. Now we are on item E2, ordinance number 3405, 2024, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the Congregate Housing Fund for costs above budgeted amounts, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Baisden.
Move to enact ordinance 3406, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3405, 2024?
Was that 3406 or 3405? Sorry.
Pardon?
I think it was 05. I think it was 06 was said, though.
3405?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
thank
the
you.
correct one.
Nobody? Okay, seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council for discussion. Councilmember Baisden.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Maybe just a brief overview of what's taken place.
Thank you, Councilmember Baisden, through the Vice Mayor. We have our Senior Center Director here, so I'll let Kathy give you an overview.
Councilmember Baisden, through the Vice Mayor. We are really, really anxious to get a new boiler, which is going to be happening this next week. It's going to start. And so to keep the boiler going has been some patches and a little bit here, a little bit there. It's been a year of that. We also had a major plumbing issue that happened, and sewer seeped into the ground. It cost us about $10,000 to get that taken care of. And so that's the added expenses for this year.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Student Representative Tanner.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3405, 2024 is enacted.
Okay, thank you. We now have item E3, ordinance 3406, 2024, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the airport special revenue and airport improvement capital project funds, and authorizing a final adjustment contract amendment to the professional services agreement with HDL Engineering for construction administration services for the 2020 Kenai Municipal Airport Sand Storage Facility, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Baisden.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would move to enact ordinance 3406, 2024, and at the appropriate time, we do have a amendment that we need to act on also.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and second. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3406, 2024? Okay, seeing none, that brings us back to council. Discussion from council. Councilmember Baisden.
I would like to make a motion to amend the title by removing Airport Special Revenue Fund and then changing the word funds to fund to read as follows: increase in estimated revenues and appropriations in the Airport Improvement Capital Project Fund, and authorizing a final adjusting contract amendment to the professional services agreement with HDL Engineering for construction administration services for the 2022 Kenai Municipal Airport Sand Storage Facility Project, and ask for unanimous.
I'll second.
Any objection to any unanimous or any further discussion on that? That will bring us back to ordinance 3406, 2024 as amended. Any further council comments? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naxted,
Yes?
Student Representative Tanner.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3406, 2024 is enacted.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item E4, Resolution 2024-13, authorizing a contract award and corresponding purchase order for library materials brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Baisden.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would move to adopt Resolution 2024-13 and ask for unanimous.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to Resolution 2024-13? Okay, seeing none. Unanimous request was requested. Any objections to unanimous request?
No objections, but maybe just from the city manager or maybe the library director, just an overview for the public of what we're doing here.
Thank you, Councilmember Baisden. Vice Mayor, we do have our library director, Katja Wolf.
Yes, thank you. So we went out to bid at the end of February, and the goal really is to be able to spend the money that we get through our budget and spend it wisely. So we had a proposal out there, and basically what it was looking at was things like costs, discounts, things like added value like processing and shipping, and other things like the ability for us to do good collection management through certain tools that they have available. We received one bid. Unfortunately, that was it. And we did go through, and we had 4 employees who were scoring this proposal, and we decided that it was a good proposal, and we decided to go forward with it.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Unanimous consent was requested, and there was no objection. So hearing no objection to the unanimous consent, Resolution 2024-13 is adopted. So that gets us down to item H5, action approval, authorizing the city manager to request a community purpose exemption to donate sand to the construction of the Triumphant Theater. Pleasure of council. Councilmember
Yes,
Dothit.
I'll move for the action approval of discussion of authorizing the city manager to request a community purpose exemption to donate sand for the construction of Triumphant Theater.
I'll second and ask for unanimous consent.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Are there any questions regarding the council?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a discussion, maybe for the city manager. Have we ever done this before with dealing with airport property, making a donation like this? I know we're going to go out to this, or this going to FAA, I think, to get their approval, if I'm thinking of it correctly. And if we get that approval, will it come back and go in front of the Airport Commission?
Thank you, Councilmember Bazin, through the Vice Mayor. So, to my knowledge, we have not done this before as a city, and, I would just, like to say the basis. So, the city was deeded a significant amount of property by the federal government and the FAA, and we are charged with utilizing the assets of the airport for the betterment of the airport. Sometimes what that means is even when, say, the general fund of the city would like to use a piece of airport property, airport equipment, or an asset, in this case like sand, we have to pay the airport the fair market value of that asset, just as if we were any other customer. So we have sold sand from the airport in the past when the airport has deemed that they don't need the sand. We have sold that to other projects and charged market rates. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that we've been asked to provide a donation. That's why it requires a request to the FAA for a community purpose exemption. We are permitted to utilize some assets of the airport without compensating the airport when they provide a community purpose. Example of that we have every day here in the city or every year is our softball fields over here. Our softball in that park strip area right there is airport property. We are able to utilize that as parks and recreation and areas for city residents. If there's ever a need for an airport purpose for that, it will have to be purposed for that. But in the meantime, we can utilize it for a community purpose without having to compensate the airport. So the group putting together the Triumphant Theater, we had agreed to offer to sell them sand at market rate for their project because of the proximity to the construction site. It could help reduce cost. They've chosen, they would like to see if they could get that donated. And because we've never, in my experience, requested a community purpose exemption like this, I wanted to bring that before council for your policy call. As far as what the next step was, if council authorizes the administration to request the community purpose exemption, we will do so. If that is granted, there will be additional legislation brought back before council that would then authorize the donation, and we would bring that legislation to the Airport Commission for their recommendation prior to council action.
Follow up? Yeah, so, okay, I understand. I guess my only other question would be so make sure I'm understanding this correctly. If the donation is made, the donation of sand from the airport takes place, but the city then does not, out of the general fund, have to reimburse money back into the airport fund to compensate for this. Am I thinking of that correctly?
Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Bazin. That is correct. If the community purpose exemption is granted from the FAA, the general fund would not have to compensate the airport fund for the value of the sand.
Thank you.
I do have a question, but before I ask it, I wanted to open it up to the public. If there was anybody that has any, yes, please. Just you state your name and what city you live in. Hit red button.
I am a happy neighbor resident of the city of Kenai, K Beach on the Kenai side, so 99611. My name is Jenny Nyman. I'm the president of the board of directors for Triumvirate Theater. I know Joe Rizzo has been the one speaking to you in the past, but he is driving from Anchorage, and we want him to observe all traffic laws on his way here. So, but we did want to come and, first of all, of course, thank the council and the city for your generosity in supporting our rebuilding campaign. We are very much looking forward to our new home on the city's donated lot over by the Fire Training Center. And I just wanted to explain a little bit. We do understand this is a creative request. We're looking at starting construction here in May, and RARE is the construction project that does not see some unexpected cost overages. We are at the point where we have fundraised as much as we can possibly fundraise, and so we are looking to limit construction costs as much as humanly possible. That lot, when we started looking at development, we realized the water table was quite a bit higher than we had anticipated. So the initial cost estimate just for all the fill we were going to have to bring in was over $800,000, which shot a pretty giant hole in our construction budget. So with the help of our architect and city administration, we were able to bring that down to about $468,000 by reducing the size of the parking lot we're going to need. But we still need fill in order to make this work. So the donation of sand, the value of that was estimated at about $32,500. Just to give you an idea of what that means in Triumvirate's budget, that would cover our utility costs for 3 years in the new building. That would be a summer camp for 25 kids for 12 years. So having a new building is a wonderful thing, but we are not only building from scratch, we're outfitting from scratch because we lost everything in the fire. So that means soap dispensers, outlet covers, curtain rods, everything. The last thing we want to do is open our physical doors next year to the public and not be able to sustainably open our programming doors to the community. This donation would, more importantly, limit the amount of a loan that we're probably going to have to take out to finish construction and outfitting of the building. And just going forward for sustainability of the organization, being able to complete this project with as low of cost and as low of cost overages as humanly possible is going to allow us to, be able to start serving kids as soon as possible. So we do understand this is a creative ask, and we appreciate you entertaining that and your consideration tonight.
Are you available for any questions? Council? Thank you very much for that clarification. Anybody else from the general public that has any presentation? The question I have for the city manager is the sand going to come from an existing sand pile? And where is it? It's not going to be an excavation on the airport, is it?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. There is existing stand on the airport. The stand predominantly came from when we constructed the floatplane basin and all of the excavation material that came out of that. In the past, the city was utilizing that sand, or the airport was utilizing that sand for operations on the airport. A piece of equipment that we had in order to do that was damaged, and we then were trying to subcontract out some screening and things to, that sand is difficult to meet FAA spec. So it's not about just removing the big items, but it has a lot of fines that don't meet specs. So what we found is that it's no longer economical for us to utilize it for operations. So we're purchasing sand that they're using to sand the runway and things like that for operations out there. So this sand is now surplus to the airport, and we will look to sell it to other projects along the way in the future and start to get it off of the airport.
Is that sand pile over by the gravel strip, or is it on the other? It is? Okay, so it has a quick access through a gate, so it doesn't go through a neighborhood or anything like that. Any further questions?
Yes.
Councilman Dothett.
So if we approve this tonight, we're already in April-ish. Do we have any idea how long the approval process might take for FAA for moving forward with this?
Thank you, Councilmember Dothett, through the Vice Mayor. We don't, what I would speculate is when I talk to Joe about this is not a make or break whether the construction is going to take place or not. I think, like our speaker said, what this will do, if the donation is able to be made, would likely reduce the amount of a loan that they're going to have to take out. So I don't think that this is necessarily time critical as far as they have to have this decision before they start construction in May. If we go through the process and the FAA approves it and then council elects to make the donation, we just won't bill them for the sand that they're going to use our sand, I speculate, because I think it's cheaper than they can get it anywhere else, especially with the trucking time involved. So I don't think it's necessarily time critical, but we will work through the process.
That's where I was curious, is if they were gonna still utilize it, just with the plans of purchasing it, and then if we don't, if the FEA for some reason said no, then they would just have to purchase it at the set agreed upon value. But I was just looking at the timeline, if we're looking at 3 months from now before we're actually getting to say we can give it to them, that puts them right in the middle of their dirt work season, and that might delay them a little bit. So that's where I was thinking the feasibility of possibly purchasing with a refund or something like that. But knowing that the fact that they've agreed to, and I talked to Joe too about that the trucking time is where the real money's at. The savings is on that too. I would be okay with moving forward. This is as a community purpose. We'll see what FEA says. If they say no, then we'll still be able to purchase it to them. It won't slow them down at all. That's what my concern was.
Okay, I think we have Brian Gabriel has got his hand up. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. Yeah, I just wanted to say a lot of the questions I had are, wanted to get out sort of on the record about, the amount of sand, like whether it was stockpile material, which it sounds like it is. That was a question I had. And additionally, that it doesn't meet the FAA spec for the airport. In my opinion, this is there'll be a return on investment, I guess, if you will, for the benefit that it provides Triumvirate. And then additionally, ancillary to that is to our community. So I'll be supporting this, and hopefully this will help them with their project costs, because that's just development of the lot is a big part of what they're facing. I think this will help them along that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Dothett.
I guess I just have one more quick question on that. It's not suitable for FAA use. Would it be something that the city itself could use on the roadways around here, or is that also not suitable for our sanding of our roads?
Thank you, Councilmember Dothett, through the Vice Mayor. I don't think we're subject to the same specifications like are on the airfield for use around aircraft. So we certainly could use this. The problem with this sand, again, is I would say it's dusty. I don't know if that's the right way. It has a lot of fines in it, and those fines tend to blow away and blow around. So it's not as useful as other sand.
I have a follow-up for that, for the city manager. Would we have to purchase it? The city would to use it in the city operations besides the airport if we went that route?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Daniel. Through the Vice Mayor, yes, traditionally we have purchased. So last spring when we did final work at the dog park, we utilized, I don't know how many yards of sand, but we utilized a lot of sand to bring that site up to grade and before we seeded it. And the project paid the airport the value of the sand for us to utilize it for the dog park. So absent a community purpose designation or exemption by the FAA, we do need to pay the airport for the value in order to stay in compliance with our grant assurances. And those grant assurances are critical to the city. I mean, that is what allows us to receive, $30, $40 million for a runway rehabilitation project. I mean, these are big dollars, big numbers. So we want to do nothing that jeopardizes that, in my opinion.
Any further questions? I just want to state that I definitely support this as well. It's a good use of that sand that the airport can't utilize. And it's also amazingly in a great location for it to be moved to where it needs to go. It's at the north end of Willow Street, near a gate. And so it won't even go by a business. It'll go straight out across Marathon Road, basically, down a little ways there and right to this site. So nobody will even notice the trucking going on out there. And trucking is, transportation is a very big cost in material, and it will be greatly reduced for them too. So if there's no further questions, was unanimous consent requested? It was, and there's no objections. Hearing no objections to unanimous consent, the authorization is approved. That gets us to item H6, discussion item, scheduling a budget work session. City Manager, do you have some dates in mind?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. I met with the Finance Director today and looking at his schedule on finalizing the budget. He is targeting having a draft available for council to start reviewing by the 19th of April here, which would mean the soonest that we could schedule the work session would be that following Saturday, or not, I wouldn't say the next day. I would say probably the 27th. But if the pleasure of council, I think we would like to target that first Saturday in May as the date for the work session.
Okay, the first Saturday is May 6th. How's that looking?
No, that's May 4th, and I'll be out of town for that, 4th and 5th.
I must have the wrong year. It's still here. Okay. So, sorry, I'm catching up. May 6th isn't going to work?
May 4th.
May 4th.
I'll be out of town 4th and 5th.
Another 2023.
May the 4th be with you. Remember the 4th.
I'm going to keep working my way through it. Here's one. I'm not kidding. It'll be good in another, 12 years. But, okay, so with the 11th, would that give us enough time?
I think the 11th would be pushing it. So we need to introduce the budget ordinance on the meeting of the 15th. It needs to be acted upon on the first meeting in June, so that would be June 5th. So I don't think we would have, we would already be past the packet deadline for the 15th, but if we held it on the 11th.
The 27th, I would be here for the 27th. The 11th also I would be gone.
The 27th is the earliest I think that we could be prepared for it. So the 27th would work, but like I said, we would prefer the 4th.
I'll be unavailable for that date. I'll be out of town, but you guys can go on without me.
Well, will this be, this will be on YouTube and Zoom, the work session?
Thank you, through the Vice Mayor. We don't generally live stream the work sessions, but we will have a Zoom and an audio recording of the work session.
Okay. So that's an option.
If council requested, I could live stream the budget work session.
I won't have internet, so that won't really matter for where I'm at.
Say again?
I'm not going to have internet on the 4th, so
Okay.
I'll be on camp. So.
Mayor Gabriel, is the 27th or the 4th going to work for you?
Either one. I think the 27th would work, but I don't have anything penciled in for the 27th or the 4th right now. So,
I can do the 27th. I thought we were still talking about the 4th.
And I can join remotely that day. That should work, where I'm going to be. I could join the 27th remotely if we do it that way.
Okay. So it's not as desirable to have it on the 27th. Is there, you think there might be some issues being prepared for that date? Just so we don't agree to something we can't accomplish?
We will be prepared. I'm just trying to this is our finance director's first year through the budget process. I'm trying to give him as much leeway as I can to make sure, he's comfortable and prepared for it. So we will make the 27th work if that's the pleasure of council.
You're going to have council members miss either the 27th or the 4th. So I would say do it on what gives the finance director the better, because I'm probably going to not be here on the 27th. Somebody else I thought was going to be the 27th, same way at the 4th. So I say pick whichever one works best.
Well, honestly, I won't be here for either of them. But I wasn't going to say anything, so that's not a factor. It just isn't.
Well, I think
it
that's,
sounds
I
like
think
I'm-
that's the issue. I don't think all 7 of us are going to be here on either one of those days, so if that's the case, it doesn't matter. Give the
Sounds like
finance
I think
director, give the
the-
finance director the most
Okay.
time he needs. If
The 27th would have the most of us here, though, it sounds like, right?
Well,
He's not gonna
if
be here, and I
I
won't
won't
be
be here, but if we do it on the 4th, Alex, Councilman, you won't be here, but Daniel, you'll be here?
So he's going the 27th, I'm going the 27th, so the 4th has the most.
Daniel, you'll be gone, Councilmember Daniel, you'll be gone on the 4th?
No, I'll
too?
be here on the 4th, but gone on the 27th.
Okay.
So I'm the only one that won't be here. Thank you.
Councilmember Sonart,
I will be gone both Saturdays, the same as you.
okay.
So I'm out of the equation here.
Yeah.
So just do what's best for administration.
Well, what would be best for administration would be the 4th.
Then I guess it's the 4th.
Can I jump in here, Vice Mayor?
Go ahead, Mayor.
What I would suggest, that if we're going to have a draft budget out on the 19th, that if we do it the 4th, that'll give everybody a chance to review it. But for the folks that aren't there, they should have time to schedule a meeting with administration, to have administration forward any maybe amendments or concerns or input that they may have that we would want to incorporate on that day of the work session.
Okay. So I think we're zeroed on the 4th. As far as Zoom, I don't know that I'll be able to Zoom in. I might be able to. You need council direction to set that up?
No, I'm sorry, Zoom will be available.
Okay.
We don't live stream it through YouTube.
Okay.
Is the difference. So the Zoom will be available for
Okay.
all meetings, work sessions of the council.
I'll attempt to Zoom in for all or part of it. So I guess we are on the 4th.
What time? 9 o'clock?
Terry? What time?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.? Okay. And Mayor Gabriel, I'll keep these 2023 calendars here for you. Maybe you need them.
Yeah.
Okay, that gets us to commission committee reports. Council on Aging, Councilmember Beeston.
Vice Mayor Naxton, could I could I be excused at this point? I've got an early flight tomorrow morning I need to catch, so.
Absolutely. Before you go, did you have any kind of report you wanted to give for the mayor?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to you and council, and also to say good luck for the senior, the March, their fundraiser here coming up this Friday. It's one of the, nicer events of the year that I hate to miss, but hopefully it goes well. It sounds like it's a great theme, and wish them the best of luck.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Baisden.
Thank you, Council on Aging. But I just, for the mayor, too bad the mayor left, because you guys kept me on here to 1 o'clock the last meeting. Dang it, don't seem fair. Thanks for mentioning the fundraiser for the senior center. That is this Friday, starting at 6 o'clock, I do believe. That'll be a great event that takes place. Our next meeting is April the 11th. If I'm looking at the if I have the right calendar, I'm not looking at last year's calendar. And I played hooky on the last Aging of Council, so I don't have a report.
Okay, thank you. Airport Commission is mine, and no report, but we'll have a meeting on the 11th as well, at 6 o'clock here. Harbor Commission, Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. No report, but our next meeting is April 8th.
Okay. Parks and Recreation Commission, Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. Parks and Rec is meeting tomorrow night here. They're starting with a work session and then a formal meeting. So tomorrow night.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to Planning and Zoning Commission, Councilmember Dothett.
They did not have a meeting, so we'll be at the next meeting, we'll have a report.
Okay. And Beautification Committee, Council Member Daniel.
Nothing new to report. The next meeting is this coming Tuesday, the 9th.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we basically got the mayor's report, and that gets us to item K, administration report, city manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of council. Just a couple things to report on. Last fall, the council did approve the administration entering into a contract with the borough to accept leachate from Central Peninsula landfill. We began that process. We started with 5,000 gallons a day. According to our water and sewer folks, they didn't even notice any difference in the plant, so we've upped that to the upper limit of 10,000 gallons a day. That has been being delivered down and pumped into our system on bridge access. That road down there during breakup here is a little soft, so we're looking for some alternate sites to accept that. But at 10 cents a gallon, that's about $1,000 a day in leachate that we're processing through our plant. And with, at this point, no significant impact on operations, which is what we were hoping for. And just to remind council, 10,000 gallons a day represents about a 2% of our daily flow. So it's still a real small amount that we're accepting into our system, but we wanted to be measured and make sure we didn't jeopardize anything. Last Saturday, I think we were all aware of the tremendous amount of winds we had around the community. I am happy to report, you know, I think city facilities experienced minimal damage. You know, we had some damage. We had one of the score shacks at the Little League fields got turned over. We had, I'm guessing, streets removed 30 to 40 trees. They were in on Sunday, clearing trees out of the roads and out of the right-of-ways. Parks and Rec has been around all week cleaning up trees and so on and so forth. But by and large, city facilities, we weathered it pretty well. Probably the most significant impact we had was down at the sewer treatment plant, and with the power outages, really played havoc with some of their equipment, and so it took them, you know, replacing starters on equipment and things like that, the power surges due to us. So, but happy we didn't have any significant damage. Our Public Works Director, Mr. Curtin, attended I don't know that it was a meeting, more as, I don't really know how to characterize it, but it was a project meeting up in Anchorage last week on the Bluff Erosion Project, where I got to interface with the contractor, the Corps, and learned a little bit more about the project. You know, at this stage, I think it's going to be unlikely that we see actual rock being placed this year. We learned a lot about the specification process for the rock. It takes about 5 months, I believe, for the testing on the proposed rock source to be completed. They actually go through 1,000 freeze-thaw cycles with the rock, where they actually subject the rock to a freeze and a thaw and look for how it degrades during that process. And within, I mean, it's pretty extensive, certainly more extensive, I think, than we envisioned. But it's probably unlikely, and they are still looking at different quarry sources. I know they talked about one over in the Cordova area, Prince William Sound. I think they are going to make a site visit to Soldovia and look at a potential source there. So they're working through the process, but they are still committed to the 2-year construction period, and they're going to eat up 1 year of it just getting all the specifications and all the submittals and acceptance of the materials done. So it's kind of where we are with Bluff Erosion. I'm glad Sergeant Coleman showed up here this evening. I wanted to recognize Sergeant Coleman. He graduated from the FBI's National Academy on March 15th. It's a command level training that we have to apply and are fortunate enough to be able to send some of our senior officers to. It's 10 weeks long, so he was away from his family for 10 weeks, and they go through some pretty amazing training at some pretty high levels with folks from all around the nation and frankly all around the world. So It's a tremendous asset to us, and we're just really proud that he was able to attend and able to graduate. I wanted to let council know, I don't know if council remembers, but for calendar year 2023, we changed a little bit the healthcare program that we were enrolled with Primera. We went to a program where we are able to share in some cost savings if they exist. Our liability is capped, but if our actual claims experience comes in below estimates, the carrier is then willing to share half of that savings back with the city. Our refund for 2023 was $72,000, which is exciting. So the first year, and we got a check for $72,000. I know HR is going to be discussing those funds with our consultant, our new healthcare consultant, on what the best way to utilize those funds and things like that. But I thought that was some exciting news. I will be in Anchorage tomorrow and Friday at the Infrastructure Symposium put on by the Alaska Municipal League. There will also be representatives from a lot of federal agencies to talk about notice of funding opportunities for their agencies and the best ways to apply. So this is just a continuation of the tremendous amount of grant opportunities that are out there. So we'll be up there to listen in on that. And I know council did get Chief Pryor's notice of resignation. He's going to be retiring from the city. And I can tell you his last day with the city will be on April 30th. So we'll miss Chief Pryor. We're beginning the process of recruiting for the new chief right now, and work hard to fill that position. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the city manager? Well, I put in a request. You mentioned the bluff erosion project, and one of the associated questions I get is not only where the rock's coming from, and we don't know that, but is how they're going to move it here, and how are they going to get the rock off if it's a barge or all that, what that logistics is. It seems to be the recurring question I get. So, as time goes on and I'd appreciate that in your report. That brings us down to the city attorney, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nackstead and members of council. I don't have any comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Bloom? City Clerk?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nackstead. Just a couple things. Reminder, financial disclosure day statements are due on the 15th. And also wanted to let you know that it was a recommendation that City Manager Eubanks received from another person to implement a text messaging software to verify that we have quorums. Councilmember Askin actually got to experience it. And what we're doing is 24 hours before each meeting, it's an automated text message. And I know you've all seen it, your dentist appointment, your doctor. We want a one-letter response from you, whether you're going to be there, whether you're going to be there remotely, or whether you're not attending. And pretty much when I called commissioners to tell them about them, I let them know this way, if we don't find out we're not going to have a quorum, I can call you and guilt you into joining us. So hopefully we will have quorums more frequently. So that's in place, and it was affordable, and it's actually a pretty nice system to use. And that's my report, and available for questions.
Any questions for the city clerk? Okay, seeing none, that gets us to additional public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the council at this time? Yes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to update council a little bit in case you get questioned. We received a few phone calls today about the color of water in the city. Last week, starting last Friday, we're constantly operationally with the utility trying to optimize our operations, keep rates and fees as low as possible. We worked with the state of Alaska, DEC, and our engineers over last fall and did some testing on some filtering chemicals to have a second choice. We've been essentially annually purchasing chemicals as a sole source purchase every year through a company called Nalco, and we found a secondary source that was much less expensive for a similar chemical. We started using that last week, and what we're finding today is it's not working as well as the previous chemical is. So I expect over the next few days to notice that. It's pretty minor in my opinion, and we're watching it very, very closely. It's perfectly safe. There's no health hazards or risk at all. It's simply the color of the water has a little more tannins that are making it past the filter. Largely, it's being noticed like in toilets and things like that if the water sits for a long period of time. I'm just bringing it to your attention in case you get questioned. I've spoke with a half a dozen people today. My admin spoke to probably another half a dozen. I expect it to continue for a few more days. We're going to go back to the old chemical here shortly. We've been trying to see if we can increase the dosage to see if it gets any better the last couple of days. It doesn't seem to be. I don't think I'm going to get to where I need to be. So we're going to revert back to the old one. And then I'm still going to pursue other vendors just to maintain a competitive bidding environment for those chemicals. To put it in perspective for you, we buy these IBC totes. They're like 275 gallons. This chemical is about $12,000 a tote that we've been using. And the similar product that I found it was about half price, $6,000. So it's a significant, and one of those totes generally lasts 4 to 6 weeks. So when you look at that difference it's many tens of thousands of dollars. So we're going to continue to pursue that. It doesn't appear to be working as well as I had hoped to see it. So I just wanted you aware in case a citizen reaches out to you with a question or concern, you're aware of what's going on. I expect it to clear itself out. I'm guessing by next Tuesday this should be beyond us. We make water all day long throughout the day. It gets stored in our storage tanks, one at the water plant, one at the airport res. It's going to take several days to burn through the water that we've already made. It's not an instant fix that I can do. So it'll last a few more days and then it'll go back to what we were. So anyway, just wanted to make you aware. Thank you.
Councilmember Sonar.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. So Mr. Curtin, has the less expensive chemical been working up until now?
It works. It just doesn't work as well. So we did what we call jar sampling. So we gave them samples of our water. We tested it to confirm if it was even worth using it at all. The problem is when we actually put it into broad use, it's not meeting the results that we were expecting to see from the preliminary testing that we did. It's not performing as well. So it is removing some of the tannins. It's just not removing as much of them. So we're still getting some of those that are making it past the filtering process, and so it alters the color slightly of the water.
Right. I was just wondering if this is an all-year thing where it's not meeting your expectations, or is it just currently? Because I've been on city water for decades, and I always noticed, and this was before the water improvement program going back about 15, 20 years ago, during the time in the transition of spring, there were 3 or 4 weeks where the tannins in the water always came on stronger. And then once we actually got full-fledged into spring, that extra tannin disappeared. So I'm just thinking it's the time of the year. I don't know, I'm just asking.
So we have, that's a great question. And operationally, we flush our hydrants twice a year. And that's to maintain that fresh water in our system. And we're going to be doing that here shortly. You'll see we put that blinky road sign out to let everyone know that we're going to be flushing, as we move through the city. And that will stir up the mains, and we'll have tannins and other debris that we flush out of the mains. I don't see this working as well as I would like to see it work year round. So what this chemical does, it's a coagulant. So we introduce it in the water pre-filter, and it's meant to attach. It's sticky, so any of these little particles are meant to attach to that, and then the filter process removes it so that the water that goes out to the city is clearer and cleaner. This is just, it's operating at, say 65% effectiveness from what our previous one is. So it's still catching some, it's just not catching as much as what we would like to see.
Okay, that pretty much answers my question. I was just thinking finances, dollars and cents, and that if, because the price difference between the two chemicals is very significant.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you're talking, there's a 100% increase if you go to the $12,000 one, and I was just thinking, well, if you could successfully, efficiently use the $6,000 one for 10 months out of the year, and then get the $12,000 one in the springtime when you know the tannins hit more, I mean, it was just a thought, instead of having to do one or the other, make a hybrid. But what I'm hearing you say is that you are not totally satisfied with the year-round production of the cheaper chemical, correct?
I don't think it's going to save us what I was hoping it was going to save us. Okay. So we started it at a similar amount being injected. And what I've been doing the last few days is slowly increasing that amount to see if it gets more effective, right? So if I add 10% more of this clarifier, does my 65% removal go to 80% or 90%? And what's happening is that I'm not getting the extra benefit of increasing the amount of chemical. And you do reach a line where I add more of that, it's not saving me any money, right? So it's not saving us any money. So we've been doing that the last 3 days, and it's not getting me to where I think it's going to be a benefit to us. This whole thing stems from, I want to say when we built the water plant 10 years ago, that same chemical from that same vendor was around $3,500. Today it's $12,000. Mm-hmm. And every year it goes up. So I'm just trying to give us a competitive option that we have some control. That if somebody shows up tomorrow and that's $20,000 a tote, that I'm not forced to buy that we have an option. I'm going to continue to pursue that. I just don't think the one that we tested and got approved through the state and our engineers last fall, I don't think this is the winning one. So we're going to continue to pursue options till I have at least 2 or 3 options to give us that competitive advantage when we're purchasing every year.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Curtin, and I appreciate your efforts in what you go through to make sure that we have quality water here in Kenai. I want you to know I'm a citizen who always read the water report every time I got it in the mail. I've read it for years. Mm-hmm. And I miss getting it every year. I think now it's we get it in the mail every 2 or 3 years?
So they come out in June. We have them, we're actually getting ready to prep it right now. Gets routed through the state and we put them out in June, yeah.
That water report is near and dear to my heart, so thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Apologies, I didn't want to drop that on you, but I didn't want you guys to be surprised and not be aware if you happen to get a phone call. So I appreciate the time. Thank you, Mr. Curtin, for the report. We haven't had a good, solid tannin discussion at this council for a long time, so it's refreshing to me. But you're a victim of your success because the city water is crystal clear as far as I see. And I was on city water 30 years ago before, and my wife, when she'd draw a bath, could barely see her feet sometimes. It was just the way it was. It's so much better. Even with what you're describing, a lot of people don't remember or know that. So anyway, thank you for the report. If there's no more tannin discussion.
No more tannins, no more
solids.
Okay,
We'll bring it back to council comments and questions. Councilmember Dothett.
I just look forward to seeing anybody who's going to show up for the senior center fundraiser. But I think it starts at 6, so that means there's still time to go into the art show beforehand and all of our fancy attire, right? So there we go. There's an option. So maybe we'll see some of you at both of it. And then, I just want to let you know, Samantha at the chamber, she's out for the next few weeks in Europe, gallivanting around there. And they did hire a curator, and Samantha Bauer took that position. So she'll be starting in July. She's already trying to do things, and we're trying to hold her back, so I'm excited to see what she's wanting to do, but she did accept that position that we authorized.
Very good. Student Representative Tanner.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. I have kind of a lot to report, so I'll get started. April 3rd through the 5th, Connections has AK Star testing. And on April 10th through 11th, their principal, Doug Heyman, is going to Juneau as part of the Bond Reimbursement and Grant Review Committee. And on April 15th and 16th is the Connections Homeschool Curriculum and Local Vendor Fair, which the Student Council will be participating, helping out at. For Kenai Alternative High School on April 2nd, students participated in a community discussion about vaping led by the Breathe Free Coalition, Central Peninsula Hospital, and Kenaitze. Several of those students will serve as peer mentors when those same organizations visit Kenai Middle School. On April 5th, students will be auditioning for a student-organized talent show. On April 9th, sophomores will take the Alaska Science Assessment. On April 10th, a few teachers will take a group of students to the Kenai Peninsula Job and Career Fair. On April 15th, Independent Living Center representatives will meet with a group of students as they continue to prepare for a summer internship. On April 15th and 16th, sophomores will take the MAPS reading and language tests. For Kenai Central High School, on March 21st, they had their choir concert, which I heard went really well. I wasn't able to attend, but I did hear from some students that it was a great experience. On April 1st through 2nd was Mass and Honor Band at So High. I heard that went well as well, just they were all really tired after playing instruments for so many hours. On April 5th is a girls' soccer jamboree at Homer High School. April 5th through 6th, boys soccer jamboree at Kenai Central High School. On April 6th is the prom Hollywood theme. On April 8th is boys and girls junior varsity soccer games versus Soldotna High School. The week after that will be AK Star testing for various grades at Kenai Central. On April 11th, boys and girls soccer games at Homer High School. April 12th, boys and girls varsity soccer played against Nikiski High School. April 12th through 13th is a track meet at the Homer Invitational. On April 15th, boys and girls junior varsity games at Soldotna High School. April 16th, boys and girls soccer playing against Homer High School. And one final thing is the Caring for the Kenai finalists have come out, and so all the teams are preparing their presentations for the oral presentation on April 18th. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. Councilmember Sonard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. I'm looking forward to Friday night, to the March for Meals, and trying to figure out how to finish my carrot cake. 3-layer carrot cake, my grandmother's recipe.
Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. I too am looking forward to Friday night, and hope to see everybody there. The Sunday, the 7th, is the Historical Society meeting at 1:30, and there's going to be a special speaker, but I don't recall who it is. And that's all I have.
Councilmember Daniel.
I think we're all looking forward to Friday, it sounds like. A very busy schedule. Also, I think, do I see Mr. Rizzo back there? I do, he made it. I'm looking forward to the summer and the construction season for the theater. That's going to be awesome. So I'm really hoping we can help out in that, the sand. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Nice to see you, Joe. You had a good replacement here tonight to stand in for you. Good job. Let me start by, I think one of the biggest news that took place, and our student rep probably didn't catch this because it just happened this afternoon, but Emma Beck had a signing with UAA. She's got a scholarship with volleyball with UAA, and that was pretty exciting for Kenai Central High School today. I just wanted to recognize her. I've been gone for a little bit, so I didn't publicly get to recognize the city for clearing the soccer fields. When I drove by today, it's always great to be able to see all of our kids out there in the fields early, so thank them if I'm sure they've been thanked, but I just wanted to publicly make sure that I said something because I usually get a few calls on it, and it looked like the city was on top of it this year, so it was good. I'm having knee surgery next week, so I'm not going to make the Council on Aging, so if somebody could stand in for me because I've been playing hooky for a while. And I won't be here Friday because I'm going to be down in Homer watching my daughter play soccer. And good meeting, work session. Thanks, Chief Ross, for all you do and everything you presented to us. I'm sure that this group will meet at a happy medium to help what needs to be done there.
What day is the aging meeting?
Next Thursday at 3. That's what, the 11th?
If somebody can help, maybe just send a message to the clerk, and I'd greatly appreciate it.
Well, I've got airport commission that night, so I might as well do that too. Unless somebody else wants to do it, I'm just.
I can't make that work with 3 o'clock. My wife's leaving to Boston to the marathon that day, so.
Okay.
All you, Vice Mayor.
Okay, I'll do it. All right, well, that's, all I have is I'm gonna go to the auction this weekend too, and I'll be baking a cake for the pie action like usual, and I'll start early in the morning in case it doesn't work out, and then I can bake another one and then eat the first one if I need to. So that usually works out. So if there is no more business, we are adjourned.
Goodbye.